Hello, we are beginning the subject MA 102, Anatomy and Physiology. This subject is very important and is the basis of any medical career. The story of the human body is as old as the history of mankind. People have always had an interest in knowing the functioning of the body, the disease, death, and aging. The human anatomy is the story of the shape and structure of the human body and its part. Anatomy is divided into big branches: macroscopic anatomy and microscopic anatomy. Macroscopic anatomy deals with the big body structure that can be seen through normal dissection. For example, this is an example of macroscopic anatomy, a cut of a liver. And this is a dissection of the kidney, while microscopic anatomy deals with the smallest structures and fine details that can be seen only with the help of a microscope. You can see a liver, but seeing microscopically the tissue, liver tissue seen under a microscope. This is the liver cells, hepatocytes can be seen. Another important concept, anatomic position. Because the human body is always changing position. To make the description in anatomy, the body should be in a special position named anatomic position. The body is required to be in a particular fixed position that allows description to study body structures, movement, and relationship. Look at this, the anatomical position. Subject is standing upright, facing the observer, with the upper limb placed at the sides, palms turned forward, and the feet flat on the floor. It's the same that the anatomical position must be standing erect, head erect, eyes open, looking straight ahead, arms at sides, palms turned forward, legs extended, feet parallel, and heels together. And now, human physiology. Human physiology. Human physiology is the study of the functions or the processes of the human body. Physiology explains how and why the different anatomical parts work. The way in which the different part of the body works depends on how its structure is. That is, how its anatomy is. And both sides are closely related. A very important characteristic of the human body is its order and organization. All its parts, from the simplest to the more complex, work together to make a functional whole. Let's see the level of organization of the human body. Chemical atoms, molecular, cellular, tissue, organs, body system, and total organism. Look, pay attention that the lowest level of organization of the matter begins at the chemical level, and living matter begin from the cells. This this slide has a lot of information very important. Here in this column on the left are the level of organization, explanation, and some examples. For example, the lowest level is atomic level. Atoms are defined as the smallest unit of an element that still maintains the property of that element. For example, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Atoms combine to form molecules, and molecules are the second level. Atoms combine to form molecules which can have entirely different properties than the atoms they contain. Example of molecules are water, DNA, carbohydrates. Molecules combine to form cells, which is the basic unit of life. It's very important to remember that the basic unit of life, the small unit of life, are the cell. And cell, as I said, are the smallest unit of life. Cells are enclosed by a membrane, and in multicellular organisms often perform a specific function. A cell has cells have a specific function in different multicellular organisms. Examples of cells are muscle cells, skin cells, nervous cells, that is the neuron, and the cells combine to form the other level, tissue level. The cells combine to form tissues. Then is the next level, tissue level. Tissues are groups of cells with similar function. Example, the tissues, muscle tissue, epithelial tissues, connective tissues. And tissues combine to form organs. The next level, organ level. Organs are two or more types of tissues that work together to complete a specific task. For examples of organs are heart, liver, stomach. Organ combine to form systems or organ system. Organ system level. An organ system level is a group of organs that carry out more generalized set of functions. Example of organ system level is digestive system, circulatory system, and the set of organ systems make up an organism. Organisms level. Which is an organism? An organism have several organ systems that function together. Examples is a human being. A human being belong as organism level. And now, looking this as a pyramid, in the inferior level, the lowest level of organization of the human are the atomic level. Later, the molecular level, followed the cellular level, follow the tissue level, organ level, organic system level, and finally, organismal level, the human being. Then the highest level of organization is the human being, organism, and the lowest level of organization is the atomic level. The cells. As the cell, as the cell is the smallest unit of life, the basic unit of life, we're going to begin the cell. We're going to begin with the cell. Cells are the living unit of all organisms. Cells have three main parts: the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. Cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. In the cytoplasm are the organelles. In the nucleus are the genetic material. But all the cells have three main parts. They can be different in form, function, but all the cells have three main parts: cell membrane, cell cytoplasm, and the nucleus. As I told you, the cells in our body have many types of size, shape, structure, and function, but they all have the same basic structure: cellular membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus. Cytoplasm surround the nucleus. In it are the organelles. Look at this. The organelles that perform all the function for the life of the cell, as the organs do in our body. And the nucleus contain the DNA, with all the information necessary for cells function and reproduction. Inside the nucleus are the chromosomes. Chromosomes are made up of molecules of deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA. DNA. Each chromosome contains many genes that constitute genetic material of an organism. Now, we will see some examples of human body cells of different shapes and sizes. For example, the neuron is the cell of the nervous tissue. It's a neuron. Osteocytes are the cells of the bone tissue. Fiber-like cells are the cells of muscle tissue. Muscle cells are called fibers because of their form, like fibers. There are two types of fibers: smooth fibers, because they do not have striation, and striated fibers, because they have striation. Cells of the fatty tissue called adipocytes. Cells of the cartilage tissues called chondrocytes, and cells of the blood tissue, for example, these are these are red blood cells. The next level to cells is the tissues. As I said, the tissues are grouping of cells that have the same structure and perform the same function. You can see the different tissue types of the body. The body. You are we will study some of them. Again, the tissues are made of cells. In medical terminology, the prefix hist means tissue, and the prefix site means cells. Then, histology is the study of the tissues, and cytology is the microscopic study of the cells. The next level is organs. Organ is a grouping of two or more types of tissues to perform the same function. For example, example of organs: the liver, the lungs, spleen, the stomach. You can appreciate different type of tissue in one organ, the organ stomach: muscle tissue, epithelial tissue. The next level to organs are the organ system level. Organ system level or body system is when the organs that work together to do the same function form an organ system or body system. For example, different body systems are digestive system, urinary system, respiratory system, endocrine system. For example, in digestive system, there are several organs performing the same function. Which function? Digestion. For example, esophagus, stomach, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. All of them constitute the digestive system. And the organism is the set of body system make an organism. The set of body system make an organism. Now we're going to see in a little more details the tissues. As you know, a tissue is a grouping of cells that have the same structure and perform the same function. And very important, body tissue are grouped into four main types: connective, epithelial, muscle, and nervous. Connective, connective, epithelial, muscle, 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 and nervous. Again, body tissues are grouped into four main types: connective, epithelial, muscle, and nervous. You can observe the figures the image, connective tissue, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, and nervous tissue. Again, more images about different type of tissue, epithelial, nervous, muscle, and connective. Connective have a lot of fibers. And the branch of medicine that studies tissues microscopically is histology. You can see here that in a structure like the upper limb, observe how many different types of tissue we can find. Connective, connective, blood that is part of blood that belong to connective, bone that belong to connective, cartilage that belong to connective, fat that belong to connective, bone, well, you can see here, connective, muscle, nervous, epithelial, blood. Epithelial tissue covers the skin and constitutes the internal lining of the hollow organs, cavities, ducts, and glands. You can observe this table. In this column, you can see the location. The column, you can see the cell of the name of the cell, the imaging, and the function of the different types of epithelial tissue. The characteristic of epithelial tissue is epithelial tissue are typically avascular. They receive their nutrients and oxygen supply from the blood vessel in the underlying tissue. They regenerate or reproduce quickly, and their cells are very close to each other, one to each other. And the function of epithelial tissue are lining and protection, where skin and mucosa, absorption, where intestinal epithelium, filtration, renal epithelium, secretion, sweat and digestive glands, exchange, where pulmonary alveoli, endothelial of the capillaries. And you can see the example and where this function occurs. Capillary, intestinal villi, glands, alveoli, and second tissue, connective tissue. The connective tissue constitutes a family of tissues that are characterized because their cells and fibers are immersed in an abundant intercellular material called the extracellular matrix. Connective tissue presents various types of cells, has great regeneration capacity, and connective tissues are the tissues that bind, hold, shape, isolate, nourish, and protect organs and other tissue. For example, dense connective tissue is a type of connective tissue, adipose connective tissue, areolar connective tissue, bone is another type of connective tissue, And blood is another type of connective tissue. And this is the better explain the different connective tissues type. Loose fibrous, dense fibrous, elastic, reticular, adipose, cartilage, bone, and hematopoietic. Muscle tissue. Its cells are elongated and they are called fibers. They have the ability to contract and stretch, so this tissue is specialized in contraction, which allowed the movement. Type of muscle tissue: smooth, smooth, where we can find smooth muscle tissue in the walls of the hollow viscera and blood vessel. Other type: skeletal or voluntary striatum. Where is located this type of muscle type? It's located mainly in the limbs because this muscle facilitates the movement of the body and its part. And the last type of muscle tissue is cardiac cardiac striatum, cardiac striatum, where we can find this muscle type. We can find in the heart muscle because cardiac striatum form the heart muscle. Smooth skeletal or voluntary striatum, and no, this is a skeletic and voluntary striatum, and this is a cardiac striatum. And the fourth and last type of tissue is nervous system, nervous tissue. It is not it's not system, it's tissue. Nervous tissue, the structure is formed by neurons and glial cells, neuroglia and microglia. And what is briefly, very briefly, the functions of the nervous tissue are receiving external and internal stimuli, coordination and regulation of the whole organism.